Well, not too surprisingly, we're still working on the roundhouse and the turntable. This is an ongoing project for quite some time. But today I want to talk about designing the roundhouse. If you've been following along with what we're doing here, we've constructed the basic turntable pit. We've got everything kind of laid out. And last week I brought the tracks over to where the roundhouse is going to be and figured out the footprint for the roundhouse. The exact location of the roundhouse is determined by the position of the doors here at the front of the roundhouse. We want the doors to be as narrow as is safe and feasible. Moreover, we want the space between the doors to be as narrow as feasible. This is because with the tracks getting wider and wider coming off of the turntable, the narrower we can make the door openings and the space between the doors, the closer to the turntable we can locate our roundhouse. All of this is using up so much space. The turntable pit itself is about 40 inches across. The space now over to the roundhouse, even with the roundhouse moved as close as possible to the turntable pit, is around 25 inches. And then I'd like to have 39 inches inside the roundhouse to park the largest locomotive. But there just isn't going to be space for that. But I can get about 37 inches. So the front of that engine's going to hang out of the door a little bit. But every other locomotive I have will fit inside here, and I can close the doors if I feel so inclined. Now, the standard for F-scale says that you should have 4 inches of clearance from the center of the track to any obstacle. I have found that as long as I'm on a tangent, absolutely straight track, I can get away with 7 inches of total clearance. So the distance from the center of the track over to the door frame will be exactly 3.5 inches or 89 millimeters. Then the spacing between the doors, again, I want to make that as narrow as possible. So I'm going to make those 1.5 inches, meaning that from the center of the doorpost to the center of the track will measure 4.25 inches or 45.5 millimeters. You can see here from the roundhouse at Evanston, Wyoming, that the doorposts are as narrow as they could make them, and the doors themselves are wide enough to accommodate a locomotive and still have someone be able to pass between the locomotive and the door frame. At the roundhouse end of the equation, we want the tracks coming off of the turntable also as close together as we can get them, because every inch of space here is going to equate to at least a foot of distance between the turntable and the roundhouse door. You can see here from the turntable at Durango, Colorado, that the tracks are quite close. They're spaced just about a foot apart. I've seen them brought so close together that they actually touch, and in one case even cross over each other with a frog, all just to save space. So with my turntable in, the tracks marked out coming off of the turntable showing the correct angle, and knowing exactly what the spacing is going to be between my doors, I am able to position my roundhouse. I know exactly where that's going to be. Now, because the tracks continue to move apart inside the roundhouse, you can see that that generates a tremendous amount of open space inside the roundhouse. Once again, a roundhouse just eats up a tremendous amount of space. Here at the roundhouse in Evanston, Wyoming, you can see this just tremendous open space here at the back of the roundhouse between the tracks. Here at the roundhouse in Durango, the Durango and Silverton roundhouse, you can see how that space between the tracks has been utilized for workbenches, toolboxes, just all kinds of stuff going on because, open space isn't going to be wasted, is it? This is, after all, a locomotive shop, and so you need room here so that you can work on all of this equipment. There's also a good deal of space at the far back of the roundhouse. In this case, the tracks don't go all the way to the back wall. Half of the fun here is going to be figuring out exactly what other kinds of details, detritus, parts laying around. This is just going to be really fun filling out the area inside the roundhouse and still leaving room to pull the trains inside. Now, another feature found in almost all roundhouses is the clear story, the windows that are up here in the roof. Keep in mind that most of these facilities were built before there was electric light or before there was adequate electric light. And so you don't want a dark interior for the building. And so these things are like a giant greenhouse. The whole outside wall is windows, and then there are windows up here on the roof just to let in more and more light. Another feature in roundhouses, some of the tracks, if not all of the tracks, have an inspection pit, an area between the rails where a worker can go down underneath the locomotive. My inspection pit is going to be 1 3/4 inches deep. I think they scale out to around 35 inches deep, approximately a meter. And my outside walls are going to consist of support pillars and windows. I want the whole thing to be mostly windows. For one thing, that way you can see inside and see the details and the locomotives. But for me, the inside of a locomotive shop, a roundhouse, is all about this tremendous amount of open space and light. And so that's what I really want to capture with my roundhouse. And I want to have machine tools and parts lying around and that sort of thing because, I just love the inside of a roundhouse. The fun and interesting things that you come across when exploring these old roundhouses. Well, I hope you have found this informative. If you're planning to build your own roundhouse, I hope this gives you some ideas of what you need to do and kind of what you're up against in some of the design here. If you're not a follower of the channel, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Doesn't hurt, doesn't cost anything. And we've got a really simple way to subscribe, and that's by clicking on the upcoming blue button. Zoink! Right there, the blue button. Well, we're not sure how you found this video on the internet. We hope you didn't find it boring, and we will see you here on Sunday. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.